Meghan Markle just got caught doing something so painfully embarrassing that even her most loyal defenders are struggling to spin this one. According to a bombshell revelation from Harper's Bazaar, the Duchess of Sussex has been demanding that staff members formally announce her royal title to guests before she enters the room. And when one staffer apparently had enough of these pretentious orders, things got awkward fast. We are talking about a woman who willingly left the royal family, complained endlessly about the suffocating protocols, and told Oprah Winfrey that palace life was unbearable. Now she is clinging to that Duchess title like her entire identity depends on it. Because let us be honest here, it probably does. The reports paint a picture that is equal parts cringe and completely on brand for Meghan. Sources claim that before meeting guests in private, casual settings, someone on her team is instructed to announce her as the Duchess of Sussex. Not Meghan, not Mrs. Markle. The full formal title treatment, as if she is walking into a state banquet rather than a living room interview or a gathering with teenage girls. This is not some random tabloid gossip either. This came straight from a major publication during what was supposed to be a glowing profile piece. The irony is almost too perfect. Meghan orchestrated this Harper's Bazaar moment to rehabilitate her image, calling it her mic drop moment. Instead, it dropped a grenade on whatever credibility she had left. Insiders say this title announcement habit has been going on for a while now. It would explain so much about those awkward moments we have all witnessed. Remember how guests on With Love Meghan often looked slightly startled or bewildered when they first appeared on camera? That deer in headlights expression suddenly makes a lot more sense. They were probably still processing being formally introduced to the Duchess of Sussex in what was supposed to be a casual, friendly environment. The timing of this exposure could not be worse for Meghan. She has spent the entire year desperately trying to convince the public that she is warm, relatable, and down to earth. The barefoot walks through her garden, the homemade jam, the hugging and the casual girlfriend energy. All of it carefully constructed to make us forget the bullying allegations, the staff turnover, and the endless drama that follows her everywhere. But you cannot claim to be this approachable every woman while simultaneously demanding people announce your royal title before you grace them with your presence. Those two things do not exist in the same universe, and now the whole world knows it. What makes this even more damaging is that Meghan clearly requested this treatment herself. Americans do not do titles. The British certainly did not suggest it. This was entirely her doing, her explicit instruction to staff. And when someone pushed back or refused to participate in this absurd theater, the cracks in her carefully managed facade started showing. But this is just the beginning of the story. What happened next reveals just how deep this entitlement really goes. Let us break down exactly what this title announcement scandal actually involves, because the details are even more absurd than the headline suggests. According to reports, Meghan has been having staff formally announce her as the Duchess of Sussex to guests in completely inappropriate settings. We are not talking about official engagements or charity galas where such formality might make sense. We are talking about private homes, casual interviews, and gatherings with 12 and 13-year-old girls. Just sit with that for a moment. Teenage girls showing up to meet Meghan Markle, and before they can even say hello, someone is bellowing out her royal title like she is about to address Parliament. The sheer disconnection from reality is staggering. These are children. They do not care about duchesses and titles. They probably just wanted to meet the woman from Suits, or the lady who married Prince Harry. Sources close to the situation reveal that this was not a one-time occurrence or a misunderstanding. This has been a consistent pattern, a deliberate choice that Meghan made and enforced. Every time someone new entered her presence, the announcement would happen, the Duchess of Sussex, over and over again, in settings that absolutely did not warrant such formality. Royal experts have been quick to point out just how bizarre this behavior actually is. In genuine royal protocol, it is the guest who gets announced to the royal, not the other way around. The royal is already there, already known, already the center of attention. Announcing the royal to the guest flips the entire dynamic and serves absolutely no purpose except to stroke Meghan's ego. Think about what this reveals about her psychology. She needs that constant validation. She needs to hear her title spoken aloud. She needs everyone in the room to be reminded of her status before any interaction can take place. It is not enough for people to know who she is. They must be formally told, as if the announcement itself gives her some kind of power or legitimacy she does not feel otherwise. This also explains something that royal watchers have noticed for years. People often look uncomfortable or caught off guard in Meghan's presence. There is this visible moment of awkwardness that flashes across their faces. We assumed it was nerves, or the cameras, or just the weirdness of being around someone famous. Now we know the truth. They were probably reeling from the bizarre experience of having a duchess formally announced to them in a casual setting. The damage this does to Meghan's carefully crafted image cannot be overstated. She has positioned herself as anti-establishment, as someone who rejected the stuffy royal protocols in favor of authenticity and freedom. But demanding title announcements in private settings is not rejecting protocol, it is inventing new, even more pretentious protocols that serve only her vanity. And here is the thing that makes this truly unforgivable in the court of public opinion. She chose this. Nobody forced her. Nobody suggested it. This was entirely Meghan's creation, her personal requirement for how she wanted to be treated. But the hypocrisy runs even deeper than this, and what she did to the Queen makes this scandal look almost tame. The hypocrisy here is so thick you could cut it with a knife. This is the same woman who sat down with Oprah Winfrey and mocked the very idea of royal formality. Remember that moment? Meghan demonstrated her curtsy to Queen Elizabeth, the beloved monarch, the longest reigning sovereign in British history, and compared the experience to a cheap dinner theater performance. She literally acted it out for laughs, treating one of the most sacred traditions of the British monarchy like some ridiculous joke. The audacity of that moment shocked people around the world. Here was a woman who had been welcomed into the most famous family on earth, given titles and privilege and access that most people could only dream of, and she repaid that generosity by publicly ridiculing the Queen. She made the curtsy look absurd, theatrical, beneath her. The message was crystal clear. These royal protocols were silly, outdated, and Meghan was far too modern and enlightened to take them seriously. But now we discover she has been demanding her own title be formally announced to guests in private settings. The same woman who could not be bothered to show genuine respect to the Queen of England apparently believes she deserves the kind of formal treatment that would make actual royals uncomfortable. Let that sink in. Meghan mocked curtsying to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, a woman who dedicated 70 years of her life to public service. But she expects staff to announce her as the Duchess of Sussex to teenagers and podcast interviewers. The contradiction is so blatant it almost feels like a parody. This is what makes the scandal so devastating to her reputation. It is not just that she demands the title announcements, it is that she spent years positioning herself as someone who found royal protocols ridiculous and oppressive. She built her entire post-royal brand on being the woman who escaped the gilded cage, who chose freedom over formality, who wanted to live authentically without the constraints of palace life. Every interview, every Netflix documentary, every carefully placed story in the press reinforced this narrative. Poor Meghan trapped by outdated traditions. Brave Meghan, choosing her own path. Relatable Meghan, just a normal California girl who happens to have married a prince. And now we find out she has been cosplaying as royalty more aggressively than actual working royals. Princess Anne does not demand title announcements. Princess Catherine does not require formal introductions in casual settings. The actual blood royals who were born into this life conduct themselves with far less pretension than the actress from Northwestern who married in. The British public has a word for this kind of behavior. They call it grabby. Meghan grabbed onto that title the moment she got it, and she has been clutching it ever since, even as she publicly denigrated everything the title represents. She wants the status without the service, the recognition without the responsibility, the deference without doing anything to earn it. But the protocol violations do not stop there. What Meghan has been doing is not just hypocritical, it is completely backwards from how royalty actually works. Royal protocol experts have been absolutely baffled by this revelation, and for good reason. What Meghan has been doing is not just unusual, it is the complete opposite of how things actually work in royal circles. The entire system is backwards, and that tells us everything we need to know about her motivations. In genuine royal protocol, when a guest arrives to meet a member of the royal family, it is the guest who gets announced and introduced to the royal. The royal is the fixed point, the person of status around whom the event revolves. Guests are presented to them because the royal is already the known quantity in the room. This tradition exists precisely because royals do not need to be announced. Their presence is the event itself. But Meghan has flipped this entirely. She is having herself announced to guests as if they are the important ones receiving an audience with her. It makes absolutely no sense from a protocol standpoint unless you understand what she is really after. She wants to hear her title. She wants that moment of recognition. She needs the verbal confirmation of her status every single time someone new enters her orbit. This is not adherence to tradition. This is the invention of entirely new protocols designed to serve her ego. No working royal does this. Not the king, not the Prince and Princess of Wales, not Princess Anne or the Duchess of Edinburgh. Actual royals who were born into this life and have dedicated decades to public service do not require staff to announce them in casual settings. They simply do not need that kind of validation. The fact that Meghan explicitly requested this treatment is perhaps the most damning detail of all. Someone had to set this up. Someone had to be instructed to make these announcements. That means Meghan sat down and decided this was how she wanted things to work. She chose to create this bizarre ritual around herself, then required her staff to execute it. Think about what that conversation must have looked like. Meghan telling an assistant that from now on, whenever someone comes to meet her, they need to be formally told they are meeting the Duchess of Sussex. The staffer probably thought she was joking at first. She was not. This was a genuine requirement, a standing order that had to be followed. And when reports suggest that someone walked out or refused to participate in this theatrical nonsense, can you really blame them? Imagine being a professional, being good at your job, and then being told your responsibilities now include announcing a former actress like she is arriving at a coronation. The second-hand embarrassment alone would be enough to make most people reconsider their employment. This is what makes the whole situation so profoundly cringe. Meghan is not following royal traditions. She is not even misunderstanding them. She is creating elaborate new rituals specifically designed to make herself feel important, and then getting upset when people refuse to play along. But this scandal does not exist in a vacuum. It completely destroys everything Meghan spent this entire year trying to build. Meghan Markle entered 2025 with a clear mission. This was supposed to be the year she finally won over the public. Her team crafted an aggressive charm offensive designed to soften her image, combat the bullying allegations, and convince everyone that she was actually a warm and likable person surrounded by genuine friends. Every move was calculated, every appearance was strategic, and this one revelation just burned it all to the ground. Think about what we witnessed this year. Meghan cozied up to Jamie Kern-Lima, the cosmetics mogul, appearing on her podcast in what was supposed to be an intimate conversation between neighbors and friends. She made multiple appearances with Victoria Jackson and positioned herself close to Kelly McKee at various events. She had Serena Williams speak to the Harper's Bazaar interviewer on her behalf, vouching for their friendship. The strategy was obvious. Surround herself with successful women who would validate her character. Show the world that real people actually like Meghan Markle, despite what the tabloids say. Create a network of celebrity friendships that would make the public reconsider their negative opinions. It was smart on paper. It was also completely undermined by her own behavior behind the scenes. Because while Meghan was publicly performing this accessible girlfriend energy, she was privately demanding that staff announce her royal title to everyone she encountered. The same woman hugging Kelly and laughing with Serena was also requiring formal announcements of her status before casual meetings. The two versions of Meghan cannot coexist, and now everyone knows it. Sources suggest that Meghan spent considerable resources on this reputation rehabilitation effort. The podcast appearances, the magazine profiles, the carefully photographed moments with famous friends, all of it was designed to create a specific narrative. Meghan is beloved. Meghan is normal. Meghan is just like us, except she happens to be a duchess. But the title announcement scandal reveals what is happening when the cameras are not rolling. It shows us the real Meghan, the one who needs constant validation of her status, who cannot simply be Meghan in any room but must always be announced as the Duchess of Sussex. The warmth disappears, the relatability vanishes. What remains is a woman so insecure about her position that she requires verbal confirmation of it from everyone around her. The timing of this exposure is almost poetic. Meghan called her Harper's Bazaar cover a mic drop moment. She was so proud of this profile, so confident that it would cement her image as a powerful, independent woman thriving outside the royal family. Instead, that same article contained the detail that destroyed everything she spent the year building. All those podcast appearances, all those celebrity endorsements, all those carefully staged moments of friendship and warmth, none of it matters now. The public has seen behind the curtain, and what they found was a woman demanding formal title announcements in living rooms and kitchens. The charm offensive did not just fail, it backfired spectacularly. And speaking of those famous friendships, a closer look reveals something even more troubling about who Meghan actually surrounds herself with. Here is something that makes this entire situation even more uncomfortable. When you look closely at Meghan's circle, those friendships she has been parading around all year, most of them are not actually friendships at all. They are strategic alliances, business connections, and in many cases, people she barely knows being presented as close confidantes. Take With Love Meghan, her Netflix lifestyle series that was supposed to showcase her surrounded by adoring friends. Sources reveal that only 3 or 4 guests were genuine established friendships. Kelly McKee's Ojfen, Abigail Spencer, her makeup artist Daniel Martin, and one woman named Lindsay who was described as a friend from the past. That is it. Everyone else was either a stranger to Meghan or a loose acquaintance through work connections. Think about what that means. Meghan filmed an entire television show built around the premise that she has this beautiful community of friends, and most of the people on camera had never spent meaningful time with her before. They were not friends gathering in her home, they were guests being presented as friends for the cameras. The whole thing was performance. And now imagine those strangers and acquaintances showing up to film, only to have someone formally announce that they are meeting the Duchess of Sussex. The bewilderment makes so much more sense now. These people signed up to appear on a lifestyle show with a celebrity. They did not expect the full royal treatment in a California kitchen. Royal watchers have pointed out that guests on Meghan's show often had this strange look when they first appeared on camera. A slight hesitation, a flash of confusion, something that read as uncomfortable but was hard to pinpoint. Now we have the explanation. They were processing the absurdity of having a duchess formally announced to them in what was supposed to be a casual filming environment. This pattern extends beyond the Netflix show. Meghan has consistently tried to imply deeper connections with people than actually exist. Remember when she claimed friendship with Pier Paolo Piccioli, the fashion designer? He later clarified that they met years ago and she texts him. He never actually said they were friends. Meghan said they were friends. There is a significant difference between those two statements. The same thing happened with various celebrities she has positioned herself near over the years. Brief encounters get transformed into meaningful relationships. Professional interactions become personal connections. Acquaintances become best friends. It is all part of the image management, the constant curation of how Meghan wants to be perceived. But you cannot build genuine friendships when you require formal title announcements before every interaction. Real friends do not need to be reminded of your status. Real friends call you by your name, tease you about your flaws, and treat you like an actual human being. What Meghan has created around herself is something else entirely. It is a court of acquaintances forced to acknowledge her position before any relationship can begin. And this obsession with her title is not just socially awkward. It directly violates what the late Queen specifically warned about. Queen Elizabeth was explicitly clear about one thing before she passed. Royal titles are not to be commercialized. They are not branding tools. They are not marketing assets to be leveraged for business ventures. The late monarch understood that the moment titles become products, the entire institution loses its meaning. And yet here is Meghan, doing exactly what the Queen warned against. The timing of this title announcement scandal is particularly damning because it coincides with Meghan's aggressive push into the business world. Her lifestyle brand As Ever launched this year. Her Netflix content positions her as a tastemaker and entrepreneur. Her podcast Confessions of a Female Founder was announced with great fanfare. Everything she is building commercially is connected to her royal status, and the title announcements prove she knows it. Think about why Meghan demands to be announced as the Duchess of Sussex before business meetings and media interactions. It is not because she genuinely values royal tradition. We already established she mocked those traditions publicly. It is because the title gives her commercial leverage. It elevates her above other lifestyle influencers. It makes her products seem more prestigious. It is a business strategy dressed up as protocol. This is exactly what Queen Elizabeth feared, a title being stripped of its dignity and service obligations, then weaponized for personal profit. Meghan kept the Duchess of Sussex title specifically because it has market value. Without it, she is just another former actress trying to sell jam and home goods. With it, she is royalty adjacent, and that distinction is worth millions in branding potential. The hypocrisy becomes even more glaring when you consider what Meghan and Harry claimed when they left the royal family. They said they wanted financial independence. They said they wanted to step back from royal duties. They said they wanted privacy and freedom from the constraints of palace life. But they never offered to give up the titles. Those they kept because those have value. Sources close to the palace have long whispered about frustration with how Meghan wields her title commercially. Every product launch, every magazine cover, every business announcement comes attached to the Duchess of Sussex designation. She is not selling Meghan Markle's jam. She is selling jam from a duchess. The title is the product as much as whatever is actually in the jar. And now we learn she requires staff to verbally reinforce this title to everyone she meets. It is not enough for people to know she is a duchess. They must be formally told, reminded, made to acknowledge it before any interaction. The title must be spoken aloud over and over, because that is what gives her power in these situations. Queen Elizabeth dedicated 70 years to public service. She earned her position through decades of duty and sacrifice. Meghan was a working royal for roughly 18 months before quitting, and she has been commercializing her title ever since. The contrast could not be more stark or more insulting to everything the late Queen stood for. But the title scandal is just one disaster in what has been a catastrophic year for Meghan. 2025 was supposed to be Meghan's comeback year. Instead, it has been a relentless parade of disasters, missteps, and self-inflicted wounds that would have destroyed anyone else's career 10 times over. The title announcement scandal is just the latest in a year so catastrophic it almost defies belief. Let us rewind to January 1st. While the world was still processing a terrorist attack in New Orleans that killed family friends of the Sussexes, including the son of Tiggy Leg Burke, who is Archie's godmother, Meghan chose that moment to announce her Instagram comeback. William and Catherine released a statement expressing their devastation. Harry and Meghan said nothing about the tragedy. Meghan just uploaded her video and moved on with her rebrand. Then came the LA wildfires. Meghan and Harry showed up to tour the devastation in Altadena and Pasadena, earning themselves the nickname disaster tourists. Actress Justine Bateman publicly called them out for their performative concern. The optics were terrible. Two wealthy people in designer clothes wandering through the ashes of other people's homes, cameras conveniently capturing their compassion. February brought the embarrassing admission that American Riviera Orchard, the brand name Meghan had been promoting for over a year, was being scrapped. Just like that, all the anticipation and media coverage around that name vanished. She rebranded to As Ever, claiming the original name was too restrictive. Insiders suggest the real reason was trademark issues that could have cost millions to resolve. But admitting a mistake is not something Meghan does. March saw the premiere of With Love Meghan on Netflix. It briefly cracked the top 10 before vanishing into obscurity, remembered more for social media parodies than actual viewership. The Jamie Kern-Lima podcast interview that same spring became an instant meme. The power of yet. People could not stop laughing at the awkward exchanges and bizarre energy between the two women. April brought the chaotic launch of her As Ever products. Meghan claimed everything sold out in minutes. Customers immediately received emails saying their orders could not be fulfilled and offering refunds. The rollout was a mess that suggested the operation was far less professional than advertised. June gave us the twerking video, Meghan and Harry dancing in what was supposedly a hospital room, with Meghan claiming it was to induce labor. Medical professionals flooded social media pointing out everything that seemed wrong about the scenario. It raised uncomfortable questions nobody wanted to ask. August delivered the worm scandal. While promoting her shortbread cookies on Instagram, a worm was spotted crawling across the plate. For a brand built on the tagline "Love is in the details," missing a literal worm was a staggering failure of quality control. And throughout all of this, Meghan burned through publicists at an alarming rate. Her 10th in 5 years departed in October. 10 publicists, 5 years. At some point, you have to acknowledge the common denominator in all these failed professional relationships. But none of those disasters exposed her character quite like the title announcement revelation. The most damaging aspect of this entire scandal is the glaring contradiction it reveals about who Meghan presents herself to be versus who she actually is. She has spent years cultivating an image of warmth and accessibility. The barefoot walks through her Montecito garden, the casual hugs with everyone she meets, the emphasis on authenticity and being real. All of it was designed to make us believe she is just a regular woman who happens to have married a prince. But regular women do not demand formal title announcements before casual conversations. Approachable people do not require staff to remind everyone of their status before interactions can begin. The two versions of Meghan cannot possibly coexist, and now the public has proof that one of them is a complete fabrication. This is what behavioral experts describe as a fundamental inconsistency. On one hand, you have Meghan claiming she wants to make everyone comfortable. She talks about creating welcoming spaces and building genuine connections. On With Love Meghan, she wandered around without shoes, talked about the importance of presence, and emphasized the beauty of simple moments shared with friends. On the other hand, you have Meghan requiring a formal announcement of her royal title before anyone can enter her presence. The person who claims to value authenticity has created one of the most artificial social dynamics imaginable. Before you can hug Meghan, before you can share a laugh or a conversation, you must first be reminded that she is the Duchess of Sussex. The title comes before the human connection. Every single time. This is why people have always sensed something off about Meghan, even when they could not articulate what it was. The warmth felt performed. The accessibility seemed staged. Something about the energy did not quite match the presentation. Now we understand why. Behind every casual moment was this rigid requirement for formal acknowledgement of her status. Body language experts have noted that people often appear slightly startled or uncomfortable in their initial moments with Meghan. This was visible throughout With Love Meghan and in various public appearances over the years. We assumed it was just nerves or the cameras or the strangeness of meeting someone famous. The title announcement habit provides a much simpler explanation. They were reacting to the bizarre experience of having a duchess formally announced to them in an informal setting. The contrast with actual working royals is striking. Princess Anne is known for her no-nonsense approach and genuine connections with people. Catherine moves through crowds with natural ease and authentic warmth. They do not need constant verbal validation of their status because their confidence does not depend on it. They know who they are. Meghan apparently does not. What this scandal ultimately reveals is deep insecurity masquerading as confidence. The title announcements are not about protocol or tradition. They are about a woman who needs external validation so desperately that she has institutionalized it into her daily interactions. Every announcement is reassurance. Every formal introduction is confirmation that she matters. And this insecurity has very real consequences for her future. The fallout from this scandal will follow Meghan for years. This is not a minor embarrassment that fades with the next news cycle. This is a fundamental exposure of her character that confirms everything critics have been saying and undermines everything her defenders have argued. The damage is deep, and it is permanent. Consider what Meghan needs to succeed. Her lifestyle brand requires public likability. Her Netflix content depends on people actually wanting to watch her. Her podcast ventures assume audiences find her relatable and genuine. Every single business path she has chosen requires the public to like her as a person, and this revelation makes her profoundly unlikable to a massive audience. The title announcement habit reinforces every negative narrative Meghan has been desperately trying to escape. The accusations of diva behavior? Confirmed. The suggestions of hypocrisy? Proven beyond doubt. The whispers about entitlement and ego, now supported by documented evidence from a profile she herself orchestrated, she handed her critics the ammunition they needed on a silver platter. Royal commentators have been quick to point out that this single revelation may be the most damaging thing to emerge about Meghan in years. Not because it is the worst thing she has done, but because it is so relatable in its pettiness. Everyone knows someone who demands special treatment. Everyone has encountered a person whose ego requires constant feeding. Meghan just became that person on a global scale. The business implications are significant. Investors and partners will think twice about associating with someone so publicly exposed as pretentious and tone-deaf. Media outlets will approach future Meghan projects with increased skepticism. The goodwill she spent all year trying to manufacture has evaporated, replaced by confirmation that the negative coverage was accurate all along. Perhaps most devastating is what this means for Harry. He gave up everything for this woman. His family, his country, his military honors, his place in the institution he was born into. He defended her against all criticism and burned bridges that can never be rebuilt. And now the world sees clearly what he apparently cannot. The woman he sacrificed everything for demands staff announce her title to teenagers in living rooms. Sources suggest something is coming for Meghan. A pivot, a rebrand, perhaps another dramatic reinvention designed to escape the consequences of her own behavior. But the internet never forgets. This scandal will be attached to every future venture, every interview, every public appearance. She cannot outrun it because she created it herself. The title announcement habit was not imposed on Meghan. It was not a misunderstanding or a miscommunication. She explicitly requested this treatment and enforced it as a requirement for her staff. This was a choice that reveals exactly who she is when she thinks nobody important is watching. So what do you think? Can Meghan recover from this exposure, or has she finally revealed too much about who she really is? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because the drama is far from over. The next video is coming, and trust me, you will not want to miss it.